Welcome to another episode of Front Row on Economy.lk. I'm Anishka De Silva, a public policy professional here in Sri Lanka, and today I have with me Mr. Mikael Svensson. He's the Chief Executive Officer of Cinnamon Hotels and Resorts, overseeing the strategic advancement of the company's portfolio in Sri Lanka and the Maldives, including Cinnamon Life, City of Dreams Sri Lanka, which is South Asia's most anticipated entertainment and leisure destination. So today we will be discussing three very important areas of interest when it comes to the tourism industry. And to start off, there's been a number of news articles and lots of comms around tourist arrivals here in Sri Lanka. But Sri Lanka has been criticized for prioritizing the number of arrivals over earnings. What is your perspective on that approach? And how can Sri Lanka transition to a model that emphasizes higher earnings from tourism?
Thank you, Anishka. It's a pleasure to be here. Obviously, yes, it's a hot topic and there's been a lot of discussion around it. My stance on this is that we need to drive tourism. We need to drive tourism numbers, which in itself will drive demand and then increase prices. So I think that at the outset, that is where we should be looking and ensuring that we do so. I think an interesting perspective on this, if you look at, for example, a great case study in Vietnam, where in the mid-2000s, they had about 2.5 million people. Okay. And then they had a lot of emphasis on a great campaign, really promoting Vietnam to the world, and over 10 years increased their arrivals by, I think they were sitting at 17, 18 million at that stage. So, and with that obviously comes earnings and rates and everything else that comes with that. So I think it's essential at this stage, when we have quite a low base of just around 2 million, that we need to focus our attention on driving tourism on all levels, 3-star, 4-star, and 5-star, and really kind of bringing that up, which then, as I said, will bring up demand and then earnings will also increase. So I believe it's the right approach.
And as a follow-up to that, beyond arrivals and earnings, are there other key metrics or indicators that Sri Lanka should be focusing on when it evaluates its tourism industry?
Yeah, I think you use a very important word there, which is focus. I think focus is key here, that we focus on what we want to do, the message that we're bringing out to the world through our campaigns, both national campaigns as well as within the private sectors, and what our message is. I've always said that the success of the industry starts with the success of Sri Lanka. Yeah. So we really need to drive the destination first and foremost, collectively, collaboratively, on the private sector and the public sector. And I think that's where sort of the key is. Then we have all the elements in Sri Lanka. It's already there, whether it be our beautiful beaches or whether it be the hilltops or whether it be the safari and so forth and so on. But I think we need to be mindful about the messaging, because if you're trying to introduce and create higher awareness into a country, then we should be focusing on the 2 or 3, possibly 4 aspects of what really can sell Sri Lanka as against our regional competitors. We should not be looking at Sri Lanka as how do we increase the numbers into Sri Lanka. We should be looking at what is Vietnam doing, what is Thailand doing, what is Indonesia doing, what's India doing, Malaysia, Singapore, all of our, the surrounding area, and ensuring that we have a story to tell that they can't. And obviously the list is long, but really look at that and sort of ensure that we focus and hone in on those great USPs that we have, and that everybody continuously sort of continues to use that same narrative, whomever it is. I think that's very important at this stage, that everybody speaks the same language.
Yes, consistent messaging.
Absolutely consistent messaging.
And that brings me to the second area that we're going to discuss, is basically destination marketing campaigns. Very important for consistent messaging and keeping everybody aligned. So there is interest for the government to play an active role in destination marketing, particularly in key overseas markets. But Sri Lanka has in the past experienced organic growth in tourism, which has mainly been driven by the private sector.
Yes.
So do you still believe that government-driven destination marketing is key to the development and, say, taking tourism to the next level? And how would it contribute to elevating Sri Lanka's global standing? Has it worked in other countries? For example, we have the Incredible India campaign, Malaysia Truly Asia, phrases that are sort of etched in many people's minds. So what are your thoughts on that for Sri Lanka? I do believe that Sri Lanka has attempted this in the past. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I was just with the deputy minister actually in another session, and we were talking about this subject. For the government to have a focused marketing brand campaign is a must. It's absolutely necessary, and it is the number one key priority in my view that needs to happen and happen right now. Interesting, you talked about campaign slogans and taglines, and during my time here, I think there's been 4 or 5 taglines, and that's as far as we've got. But what we need to do is to get this off the table and to the world. It really doesn't matter what we call it. I absolutely agree. Amazing, Malaysia Truly Asia, Incredible India, and all of those. That is etched in. But that's not necessarily the success. The Malaysian campaign was not because Malaysia Truly Asian, you heard it all over the place. Yeah. It was because it was a very focused and a very specific message that came out about Malaysia, which is to many people a little bit more complicated or really doesn't have as many things to sell, perhaps, and as obvious things to sell as what we have here. We're not looking at different islands or different, everything is within, a 6-7 hour car ride. So we already have an opportunity for a very clear message. So yes, we need to have that. The private sector and Cinnamon, as I represent, we do it. Whether it is bringing bloggers in, blogger conferences to come and experience it, or trying to reach out to some of our key markets and doing campaigns in and around our brand and around Sri Lanka. But it has to happen at the top, and we need to drive it, and it's incredibly important. And I can assure you that when it happens, we, certainly Cinnamon, but I think I speak on behalf of many brands in the private sector, will be fully behind this, and we will fully participate in ensuring, that this becomes global and well-known. I think the other point here is, say, with previous campaigns, we try to sort of touch too many markets. If you have a certain budget, you have to work within that budget. Right. And not say, okay, well, we need to go to this country and that country, and let's not forget that country and so forth. It's just not the way it works. And to your point about organic, once you have a really strong campaign into 3 or 4 markets, the organic growth of that campaign happens naturally if you focus on your key markets. And then it spins, especially in this world of social media. You just need to have a very strong outward campaign representing the country and what it has to offer to the right people, to the right market, the right target market. And it will be a success. And we've seen it, as I said, in Vietnam, where you had it was started on the back end of a campaign.
Okay. And moving on to the third area that we're going to explore is related to talent. So you have leadership experience across Asia, the Middle East, and also the APAC region, Australia in particular. Do you see talent as a key barrier to increasing tourism revenue and its contribution to GDP? What steps can Sri Lanka take to upskill and create a more robust workforce for the tourism industry to really take it to the next level?
It's an interesting question and a complex matter. I think I was asked some time ago it was suggested to me some time ago that one of the problems, one of the issues or challenges that we have in the luxury sector specifically is we don't have the talent to be able to deliver the service on an international level, which I strongly disagree with, because that's not the issue.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, well, it's not the issue, and proof is in the pudding, because we've had how many thousands of people we've had, I think, over the last 2 years, 500,000 people migrating. Now, this is not all hospitality, right? And it's for different reasons. But within my industry, these people are going to Dubai, to the Burj Al Arab, or to the Hyatts, or to the Ritzes, or whatever it is. They're going through to Europe and working in Michelin restaurants as chefs, and they're going all over the globe. And so that tells you that we do have the talent. But most of these people, I would say, are probably not leaving necessarily because they want to. You know, Sri Lanka being such a strong homegrown culture, that's very important. But it is obviously because we had some tough times. But so how do we ensure that we keep people, and how do we ensure that we get over the hump so that we can then facilitate better salaries and so forth as the business grows? And the key thing which we need to do now, I believe, is to invest in our people. When you get out of a recession, or when you get out of a economic turmoil that we've had, you tend to focus on the product and the brand and what are we going to do. You don't necessarily say, okay, well, we need to look at what do our colleagues need to feel assured, to feel positive and motivated, and that goes a long way beyond that of salaries and what they're earning. So I think we need to, first and foremost, we need to look at those tools, make sure that they have those tools, and then give them continuous training to elevate them and feel that they're getting this training and uplift in Sri Lanka. We've taken a big step here. We opened very recently the Cinnamon Hospitality Academy, which we worked together with the Swiss Management Association here in Sri Lanka, and the Lausanne Hotel School in Switzerland. Now, Lausanne Hotel School is ranked the world's best hotel school, obviously known throughout the world. And our collaboration and joint venture with them is very, very exciting, because we're now able, within our premises, we built an academy, getting students in, some who have worked in Cinnamon, but mostly people who want to get into the industry, and then develop their skills and give them motivation, not just to maintain them or retain them in Cinnamon, but to give them options around other hotels and other brands within Sri Lanka. You can't be selfish when driving talent. It is a collective effort, and it would be great to see, again, if the government would look at institutions on an even higher level, management schools, universities, which we've seen in some neighboring countries has been hugely successful, where you don't only have people from Sri Lanka, but you have people from overseas coming in and to study in those countries, because they want the cultural experience and at the same time getting a truly international education. So I think this is critically important. We need to focus, we need to embrace, and we need to uplift the talent that we have. There is absolutely nothing wrong with the talent. Lastly on this, I think we need to ensure that the way in which we lead people and the way in which we manage people is critically important. The way it has been done here a little bit is that, let's take a restaurant as an example. You'll have a waiter, a lead-in waiter who, might be clearing the table, but they're not allowed to bring the menus. And then they're certainly not allowed to bring the checks. And God forbid they introduce the menu and recommend something. It's not good on any level. First and foremost, motivation. I don't think anybody would like, to wake up and say, all I do is clear tables, and I'll have to do that for a year until I'm allowed to speak of the menu. but also the multitasking aspect of it and efficiencies that we need. And the more efficiencies we have through multitasking, that means that our productivity is better. That means that we have more bottom line, better flow throughs, which we then can support employees into the future. So it all kind of hangs together.
I love that, because when you think about talent, there's so much focus on skills, but not so much focus on management of
That's
that
right.
talent
That's
and
right.
leadership.
Yes.
So really appreciate the comments on that. Before we wrap up this episode, do you have any final thoughts on tourism in Sri Lanka and how we can really hit the new targets that have been set out for the industry, and also continue to inspire entrepreneurs within the industry?
Yeah, look, I'm very positive about the future. Obviously, otherwise we just opened an amazing Cinnamon Life integrated resort, which was over $1 billion investment, the largest private investment ever in Sri Lanka. And so we obviously are very, very bullish. I know we've had a lot of bumps in the road. COVID was a very big bump for the entire world, but we had a few prior to that and post that as well. So, but we know that we're hugely resilient, and without that, we wouldn't be where we are today. So, just imagine what we can achieve without those type of challenges. So, I really, really believe that we can. I also believe that there is appetite for very strong public and private sector integration to ensure that we get where we need to be. I feel that very, very strongly. Everybody's focused on where we want to go. And that is absolutely necessary when you're promoting a destination and the industry within that destination. So I think that kind of alignment is really positive, and I think it's really, really good. And there was one thing I was thinking about the other day as I was driving and saying, when I looked, and there's an old Grand Hyatt that's standing there. There's a Ritz-Carlton that is there, JW. All of these hotels and these management brands, these companies, they came into Sri Lanka a long, long time ago, seeing the opportunity that lies for this country, for this destination, and the location that it sits in. And just imagine now where we've come from when those deals were made over 10 years ago, and giving that assurance and giving that confidence in investors to come here, come back to Sri Lanka and invest your brands into this country, not just in hotels and hospitality, but that's so critical for us that Colombo becomes a gateway city that supports this wonderful country that we have, and can really look at our opportunities from a much more focused and strong perspective with international and local partners alike.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure speaking to you about the tourism industry.
Pleasure.
And also you shared numerous key insights that I'm sure our audience would appreciate.
Thank you.
So that's it for this episode of Front Row. Stay tuned for more. Thank you.